Hello and welcome to this quick refresher video on how to solve absolute value equations. Now you'll need to remember that when you take the absolute value of a number, it makes it positive. So the absolute value of 5 is 5. The absolute value of -5, well, that would also be 5 because the absolute value always makes the number positive. And so if I were to ask you, what values could x be to be 5? Well, x will take on two possible solutions. X could be 5 or -5, because if you plug 5 in there or -5, they're both going to come out to be positive. So very often when you're doing absolute value equations and solving for x, you're going to get two solutions. So let's talk about how we might solve a problem like this. There is a three-step process. Step number one, you got to get the absolute value by itself. Step number two, you're then going to set the inside of the stuff in the absolute value equal to both the positive and the negative value it is equal to. We'll show you what I mean here in a second. And then step number three, we'll solve and check the answer. So let's do this one here, this number one. Here I have the absolute value of 2x plus 5 equals 9. Notice that I already have the absolute value by itself, so that's a check. Step number two, I need to create two equations. So I'd like to do this by drawing two lines, and I'm going to take the middle, the stuff in the middle, which is 2x plus 5, and I'm going to set it equal both to the positive and negative value it's equal to. So right now it's equal to 9, so I'm going to set it equal to 9. And I'm also going to set 2x plus 5 equal to -9. So again, I create two equations by taking the middle stuff, this 2x plus 5, and setting it equal to both the positive and negative value that it's equal to. Now we solve each one of these separately. So I'm going to minus 5 to both sides. When I do that, I get 2x equals 4. I'm then going to undo the times by 2 by dividing by 2 to get x equals 2. Now there's a second solution here. I need to solve both of these equations. I need to now come over here and do minus 5 to both sides. When I do that, I get 2x equals -14. And when I divide by 2, I get x equals -7. Notice that I get two answers, x equals 2 and x equals -7. We can check that here in the original equation just to make sure those work. So I would do 2 times 2, that's 2 times 2, which would be 4, plus 5 is 9. And the absolute value of 9 is 9. That checks. Now let's try the negative one, -7. So I'd have to do 2 times -7, that's -14, plus 5, that's -9. But because we take the absolute value of it, that's going to make it positive. And notice that both these answers work, 2 and -7. Let's give you some problems to try. Here are the 3 questions we'd like you to try. Go ahead and pause the video and give these 3 a try. Once you're ready to check your answers, unpause the video and see how you did. You can pause now. Okay, let's do it. Here we've got the absolute value of x minus 3 equals 8. I'm going to split it into two equations. I'm going to have x minus 3 and x minus 3 on both of them. And I'm going to set one equal to 8 and the other equal to -8. Again, you set it equal to the positive and the negative value. Got to get x by itself, so I'm going to plus 3 to both sides. Here I get x equals 11 as one of my answers. And when I plus 3 to both sides here, -8 plus 3 would be -5. There are my two answers, and I can check those by plugging them back in. 11 minus 3 is 8, and the absolute value of 8 is 8. -5 minus 3, that's -8, and the absolute value of -8 is 8. It works. Let's do the same thing on this one. Here I have 3x plus 5 equals 11, and 3x plus 5 equals -11. I'm going to solve each one separately. Minus 5 to both sides. I get 3x equals 6, so x equals 2. And here I minus 5 to both sides, leaving me with 3x equals -16. This is going to be a fraction, -16 thirds. And it doesn't simplify at all. You can leave the answer in improper form, that's fine. Number 3, here the absolute value is not by itself. So hopefully you caught on to that and didn't forget step number 1. Step number 1 is you got to get the absolute value by itself. So I would minus 3 to both sides first. I'm then left with 2x plus 1 equals 2. Now we can split it into two equations. We would have 2x plus 1 equals 2, and 2x plus 1 equals negative 2. I set it equal to the positive value and the negative value it's equal to. We'll go ahead and minus 1 to both sides. I'm left with 2x equals 1. So here x equals 1/2. Here when I minus 1, I get 2x equals negative 3. And so my answer is x equals negative 3 over 2. Those are my two answers. And that's how you solve absolute value equations. Step number 1, get the absolute value by itself. Step number 2, set the inside stuff equal to both the positive and the negative value it's equal to. So you create two equations and then solve each of those separately. You should be aware every so often a teacher or a textbook gets a little tricky and they'll try to make an absolute value equal a negative number. Be aware that absolute values, it doesn't matter what you put inside here. You could put 10, 20, 30, negative 50. An absolute value will always come out to be positive. So it can never equal a negative. Never equals a negative. So if you were to ever get a question like this, where an absolute value equals a negative, you should say that the answer is no solution. No solution. Because an absolute value will always be positive. It represents a distance. A distance can never be negative. Okay, well, thanks for watching this refresher video, and good luck to you in the rest of your studies.